A short while ago, I created a player survey for Gtnh to understand what about this mod pack people love, hate, and what they want to be changed. When I put the survey out, I didn't think I would get more than 50 people to respond, but to my surprise, I had over 200 participants. In this video, we will review the data from the survey and I'll yap about my overall thoughts regarding them. Let's start with the first question, and the one that I was very interested in learning about. What is the highest tier you have ever gotten to? If you played the pack before, you will know that IV, which stands for Insane Voltage, is the 5th tier in Gtnh. What you should also know about this chapter is that it's commonly referred to as Infrastructure tier, because of the scale up you will do in this tier to prepare yourself for the mid game. IV introduces many multi-blocks that will combine the knowledge that you have learned from the previous tiers and introduce you to the mechanics of setting up large-scale autocrafting, and eventually the assembly line, the gate to the LUV tier and mid-game of Gtnh. Because of this, IV is the tier that most people quit at because of the required amount of grind to gather all the resources for all the multi-blocks. You will expand your AE2 and potentially foray into other parts of the pack, such as Blood Magic and Forestry, or maybe even Botania. So unsurprisingly, you will note that from the responses of the survey, most people say the highest tier they have gotten to is IV at 21.8%. Next is HV at 20.1%, followed by EV at 16.2%. As you go later in the pack, you can also see that the amount of people who took the survey and got to the endgame is drastically reduced, with only 3 to 4 players reaching UEV to UMV and 6 reaching UXV, the tier before Stargate. Now, thanks to Boo Boo, one of the admins of Gtnh, we have screenshots of the number of people in a specific tier in the Discord. As you can see, the most is actually LV Age with over 2,000 members. The same trend as my survey concluded, the higher the tiers, the fewer players reach that specific point in the pack. This all culminates with the Stargate tiers, a group of which I am a part of, but only consists of around 160 players who have ever gotten that far out of a Discord with over 30,000 people. Of course, as always, with data like this, take them with some bias, as players could exaggerate the tier they've gotten to or lie about where they are in the progression. Next, we move to this bar graph, which indicates the number of times people have started a Gtnh playthrough. Many responses to this question were non-numeric, parsed, and not included in this graph, as it was a lot easier to track the responses with simple numbers. Surprisingly, many people have only done 1 or 2 Gtnh playthroughs. For me, I'm on my 6th Gtnh run, and it wasn't until my 5th run that I got past IV and achieved Stargate. In conjunction with the bar graph about playthroughs, we have some interesting responses about why people restarted. The most common answer was related to multiplayer or server-related issues. This could be anything from not being able to play on a server anymore due to other teammates or owners shutting down the world to communication or personality problems with other server mates. Anecdotally, one of the original runs that I was on ended because the server owner disappeared and turned off the server without any word to the people who were playing, so I feel for those who have had to deal with that in the past. Other common responses were due to restarting due to a big update, which may be the case for many of you watching when the new 2.7 update releases later this year. And burnout, which is very real in this pack. And on that note, if you are playing and feel the burnout from Gtnh, know that taking breaks and taking the pack slow is entirely reasonable. This is not a race, it is a marathon, and those who get to the end do so by pacing themselves. 3 players wanted to change their playstyle, which could mean starting with different mods, doing only tech with no auxiliary resource mods like bees or crops, or changing how they approach the early game. 2 players indicated they just want to create a new base and start fresh, which is always a reason to restart if you aren't happy with your base's current appearance. And as you can see from many of the other infographics that I'll show you, I also included some other responses that I thought I would share. Screwed up infrastructures and teammates left me. Now this is funny and sad at the same time. If they were good teammates, they would have helped you rebuild and helped you continue your run, but at the same time, it is funny that they left you when you ruined the base. So if this is you, I hope your next run or runs have gotten better, and I believe in you. Another response I thought I would highlight is that your run was a learning experience and that you started to improve it. This is a great response because this pack is all about learning what works for you and what doesn't. This pack has many different ways to get things done. You just need to find out what you like. I don't fault this at all, and even in my 6th run of the pack, I'm doing things I hadn't done previously, and I'm taking that knowledge knowing that I can apply it to a future run. The next data point we'll examine is why did you start Gtnh? I thought including this question would help me understand why people wanted to play this pack and see if anyone followed the same path I did when learning about Gtnh. For context, I heard about Gtnh years ago, but was never interested in Gtnh until I randomly decided to play Nomi Factory, and then I fell in love. After beating both the regular CE and CEU versions of Nomi Factory, I decided to take on the challenge of playing Gtnh. and although it took a few attempts for me to get to the end, it was well worth it. Unsurprisingly, the most common responses were an interest in the mod pack and the mods in the pack, or an interest in the difficulty of the pack and the challenges that it brings. I want to give a special shout out to Threefold, as many participants mentioned that they started the pack because of his videos, and I appreciate all the good publicity that Three has done for the popularity of this pack. And like the last slide, some of the unique funny responses I just wanted to highlight were to do something alongside studying, which I did when I was playing the pack while completing my masters. It's a good de-stressor. As well as to have a long-term pack to come back to, and wanted something longer than a week goes hand in hand, as this pack will take a while and is definitely a marathon. And finally, I want to call out Regian for making videos on this pack, but this pack does not take thousands and thousands and thousands of hours like he mentions it. It is a long pack, but not nearly as long as he makes it out to seem. Moving on, let's talk about what players would change about Gtnh. I'm not going to go too in depth to everything on this slide, so you can pause if you want to, but I will highlight some of the key takeaways from this section. First, about the difficulty and grind of this pack. This is the expert pack of expert packs. Unfortunately, it won't be made easier. With new content coming in the 2.7 update, this pack will become more complicated, which, sorry to say, may mean that more players quit or move on to other packs due to the grind. While there are many parts of this pack that even I think are frustrating, I find it's best to balance that out by doing as much as you can and pushing through when the times are tough. Or find teammates that would want to do the other parts of the pack you aren't interested in. About the quests and progression of the pack, there are many devs and community members that are working on the quest to make sure that they are accurate and guide you towards the end game. Still, there will always be things that you will have to find out on your own, and as you get later in the tiers, you will find that the pack does less hand-holding and tells you what you need to do in each tier to move on sufficiently. Now, the performance issues I do get, and with Angelica, a backport of Sodium for newer versions of Minecraft, FPS lag issues should be a lot better on all worlds, and I know that the devs have been working behind the scenes to clean up a lot of the code to make sure the pack runs smoother and even loads faster. Unlike the other sections, I want to highlight some suggestions that were thrown out as part of the question. One big thing that many endgame players will tell you about is the spam of multis, particularly the spam of the LPF, or Large Processing Factory. I can tell you with confidence that the 2.7 update will take lots of steps to address this issue. Thanks to some community members, many new multi-blocks will deprecate the LPF and have more scalability when you reach the endgame. In addition, many people wanted less clutter and more documentation, which is also coming in 2.7 with cleanup of code and items, as well as a focus on expanding the wiki to make sure that the pack is well documented for questions that many people may have. This being said, if you are stuck on something, join the Gtnh Discord. The link will be in the description. There are many people in there at all hours of the day who are willing to help answer any questions that you may have. Now, this analysis is getting long, so let's try and speed through these final sections. Many participants said they would encourage other people to give Gtnh a try because it's an enjoyable experience and there are many things to do. The quality of this pack is above what many other packs offer, and the community is really strong and dedicated. A funny response I found here is, "So I have someone to play with," as it allows you to be social, and if you and your teammate end up staying on the same world for the entire time, you will have banked up many, many hours hanging out. And in conclusion, let's move on to the section that I loved reading the most: why players love Gtnh, as well as take a look at two graphs that show what people hate and love the most. The most common response was that it was fun and they loved playing, which is what we're here for. It's a Minecraft mod pack at the end of the day, so enjoy yourself. Multiple people highlighted the challenge as to why they love it, as getting Stargate was something they could work towards, and again, people mentioned YouTubers and the community for why they love it. Now on to the graphs. Most people love Greg and its add-ons the most, and Magic and farming the least, which is not surprising as this is a tech mod pack first and foremost. The least favorite part did hurt, I won't lie, as bees are my favorite part of this pack, so I'll just be delusional and assume that people voted this because I lumped crops in with bees. In addition, Magic almost had the same amount of votes, and I get that because I also refuse to do Magic mods in this pack, so shout out to my friend Tell, who has graciously done all the progression for me in Hive Run. And back to the infographic. I'll let you read some of the unique responses, but it really does show that this pack is better than the rest, and I'm very thankful for the community. My closing thoughts are just thank you for giving me a platform to showcase this mod pack. I love Gtnh, and I'm so glad that I found this pack. I definitely won't be able to play any other pack going forward without comparing it to this one. I appreciate you all for watching, and come watch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/daddydiddy. If you haven't already, I might be live right now streaming Gtnh, and drop a like and sub on this video if you haven't. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.